You're listening to the J.D. Rucker Show. Let's begin. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the J.D. Rucker Show. We are super excited about things that are happening. Karoline Leavitt, the new press secretary, the youngest press secretary of all time, demonstrated that she is an exponentially better upgrade to her predecessor, Karine Jean-Pierre. Yeah, Karoline is for somebody so young. She's in her 20s, and yet she's able to handle herself. She has such a presence, something that we haven't seen in a while. In 4 years. I would say that she's very similar in her delivery and her style. She is very similar to President Trump's last press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, But we'll see how this goes. So far, after the first press conference, she handled it like a champ. There's only a couple of times where it sort of seemed a little I wouldn't say unprepared, just a little taken aback by a question. But otherwise, I mean, minimal. Like, you have to be a dude like me who's really watching and scrutinizing and be like, did she answer that exactly properly? And pound for pound, overall, fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. She handled everything like a champ, like a seasoned pro, and she's obviously not a seasoned pro. She can't be a seasoned pro in her 20s, right? Who knows? Maybe she is. Maybe her time, maybe she's prepared for, or she has been prepared, I should say, for this job, for this moment like this. We're going to be talking about Tom Homan here in a bit. Tom Homan, I think, is literally, he's made for this, and the border czar position was made for him. I think that there's perhaps never been a better fit between a man and a job than with Tom Homan. Big news today. This is one of the reasons why today's episode is going to be just clips and just short. It's going to be a short episode. I'll tell you up front, because there's a whole lot of news, and then there's other things. I have to get things situated here in the real world. This show and my sites, we are always looking for those perfect corporate sponsors, right? The ones that are the main key here. We get offers from sponsors literally every day. And there's certain criteria that have to be met. Number one, I have to believe it and trust it, right? If it's a product, I push a coffee company, not because it's the most popular, not because they pay anywhere even close to the most money. It's because it's the best coffee out there, and they just have to be a Christian company. And they don't care, they don't mind that I talk about, those crazy things, like vaccines or climate change or anything that I want to oppose, voter fraud. They're okay with me not being aligned with the wokeness, and really it goes beyond that. It's not just about wokeness. There's a reason why we've always talked about certain things that even most conservative shows won't talk about. We don't care if we get booted on Facebook or YouTube or Google. We've been booted on Facebook before and YouTube before and Google before. It's kind of par for the course. We're now focused heavily in X, because X seems to be a place where at least freer speech is allowed. I'm not going to say that X is all about free speech, because it's not. Then you've got Rumble. Rumble seems to be pretty darn rock solid. So that's where our focus points are. We go to BitChute, we go to Getter, Brighteon. So far, so good. But we keep it spread out. But the key there is that sometimes sponsors, especially corporate sponsors, they want to have a little bit more editorial say. They want to make sure that I don't embarrass them by saying crazy things. They don't want me coming out there and saying, not sure if we're getting the whole story from even the Trump administration. I don't know if we're getting the whole story about those drones. All they said was that the FAA was aware of them and that it's not the enemy. They didn't really say what they were. They were doing experiments. I don't know. I'm not buying it. I appreciate that they at least put out something. It's much better than the last administration that put out nothing, just pretending like, oh, we don't know. We know it's not bad. We just don't know what it is. Yeah. Well, now at least we know more. We just don't know. In my humble opinion, we don't have the whole story, and that is a bit of a concern. I'll just come out and say it. Yeah, but it's okay for me to say that. It's okay for me to not just bow down. Oh my gosh, Trump. I mean, I will support every single thing this administration does that I agree with, and I will call out every single thing that this administration does that I disagree with. And after a week so far, I haven't found much that I disagree with. As a matter of fact, it's been a super pleasant surprise to see the things that I absolutely, positively, wholeheartedly do agree with. So many of those popping up. Okay, I was expecting J6 to be, we're going to look at it case by case, and then we get this whole, all of them. It's like, yeah, the same thing with, Border Patrol. Okay, well, we're going to start, by trying to capture, and, we'll get like, a few dozen, and it's like, nope, we're coming hard. So I've been very pleasantly surprised with a whole lot of stuff. I'm not super happy about what they've said so far about the drones. That didn't meet my expectations for disclosure, but I'm certain that the administration, that President Trump himself, have very good reasons for not being more forthcoming. There's something crazy that was happening. We do know that for sure now. Okay, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if today's release, today's very short reading of a short statement declared that, hey, something definitely was happening and maybe still is happening, and it's okay, don't worry about it, it's not the enemy. That was basically the message. So I'll call that out, and I need sponsors that are willing to accept that I'm going to call stuff like that out. It's not just about, they're willing to accept the crazy things when I'm going up against the globalist elite cabal. They also have to be willing to accept that I will say things that I disagree with. I will highlight things if even the Trump administration is doing it. It's just part of my DNA. So those who are or know of potential corporate sponsors who are okay with going a little bit on the crazy side, hopping a bit on the crazy train, but to reach what I consider to be the most amazing and intelligent audience in the world, well, reach out to me. Go to jdrucker.com/find, jdrucker.com/talk, jdrucker.com/talk, or reach out to me via X at jdrucker. I have open DMs, and I try to reply to as many people as I can who hit me up on those open DMs. Short, but great show today. I'm going to be playing clips from that I put together throughout the day, and then we're going to call it a day. It's going to be a short show. I apologize up front, but like I said, we've got a little extra work to do today that I wasn't necessarily expecting. Tomorrow we will be back 7 p.m. Pacific with a full-blown, who knows, I think last show we went like over 2.5 hours. Maybe tomorrow we'll try to push to 3 hours. Maybe we'll be done after an hour and a half. I don't know. I don't know going in. All I know is I'm driven by the stories. I don't know when it ends. I do know when it starts, and that's at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. So let's get started with this first story. There's never been a better fit between a man and his job than Tom Homan as border czar. I'm talking about since the beginning of jobs, okay? And obviously there's a little bit of hyperbole there. I'm not going to say there's no hyperbole, but not much, okay? Not much. I loved Tom Homan before he was border czar. I thought he was fantastic. I love the way that he handled snowflakes like AOC. I love the way that he handled his job. But now that he's actually been pushed into a position that like I said, he was made for that job, and that job was made for him. And the best place where we can see that is not just the results. The results are great, okay? But results, when we're talking about sending ICE agents here, sending ICE agents there, it's not like he's sitting there and like super ultra mega strategizing something perfectly so that in a way that nobody else can. What makes him different and what makes him superior to, I would say, literally anybody else in the world at this job is that he doesn't back down not an inch. He truly believes in what he's doing, and he truly believes that any argument against what he's doing is wrong. I mean, even when he's given an opportunity, he's given many opportunities because he does a ton of these interviews, especially with legacy media. They always give him an opportunity, or they always try to kind of push him or coax him or trap him or do something to get him to acknowledge that, oh, well, in this hypothetical that is all rainbows and butterflies, don't you think that it'll be okay to just let one little itty bitsy, exception? No, there is not. There is no situation where an illegal alien should be allowed to stay. That's Tom Homan's stance. And he nails it every single time. But moreover, he makes people look stupid for even asking their questions. Here's a perfect example with one of my least favorite human beings in in legacy media, quickly becoming it, not because she's so bad at her job. It's because she is so oblivious to the fact that she works for radical left-wing legacy media. I think deep down she still feels like she's the news. She's unbiased as she expresses very blatant, very very clear biases. I don't know if it's some sort of hypnosis over her, or if she's just really kind of, I hate to say it, but dumb, unintelligent. She doesn't realize that she is a left-wing Democrat shill. I'm talking about Caitlin Collins, by the way. Let's see how Tom Homan handles her.
What we had heard from immigration advocates is that this is going to provide a chilling effect to parents in the school drop-off line or something of that matter.
It shouldn't be a chilling effect unless their child is a terrorist or a public safety threat. If they are a public safety threat, national security threat, they should be chilled. They should be afraid because we're looking for them.
Well, if their parent is here and they're an undocumented immigrant, I think was more of the argument that they were making.
They're not off the table either. I mean, they're in the country illegally, they got a problem. I mean, it's not okay. Look, it's not okay to enter this country illegally. It's a crime, and that's the way it's supposed to be. I wouldn't feel comfortable if I'm in Switzerland illegally. So we're going to enforce the laws of this country. So, the schools and the churches and essential location was a policy only for ICE, only for immigration, right? But national security threats and public safety threats have no safe haven in this country, and we'll go where we got to go.
I mean, he makes sense. He makes sense even to those who disagree with him. He makes sense. And that's sort of a superpower of his. Very, very straightforward. Doesn't mince words. Doesn't show compassion. And this is, unfortunately, the reality is that his callous nature is based upon experience. He has seen the evils of this world, the evils that have been perpetrated by illegal aliens for decades. He has seen the victims. He has tried to help the victims. And now he is finally empowered in a way that allows him to do what he has arguably always wanted to do. Again, this is the perfect man for the job, and this is the perfect job for Tom Homan. We can say that, you got J.D. Vance, you've got, we'll see what Pete Hegseth is able to do, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., Lord willing, they're going to get in there. Kash Patel, we think he's going to do a fantastic job, right? We got all these great picks from President Trump, but I keep going back to this one. This one is perfect. Jim Acosta is out at CNN. It's the end of an era. Okay, so that might be overkill. It's the end of one of the most delusional members of what I consider to be the most delusional network out there. When we can rip on MSNBC, which is to the left of CNN, except they know they're to the left of CNN. They don't imagine that they're somehow unbiased. They don't pretend. CNN pretends to be the center one. They're the ones that are telling the real news. And Jim Acosta has many, many, many times come across as if he is like the real journalist. He's the one man standing between Fox News propaganda and the rest of the world. If it wasn't for him being at CNN telling the truth, then it would just, the entire United States of America would be one long right-wing conspiracy theory. I mean, the guy was delusional, which fits. Again, CNN that's their thing. Their shtick is that they are delusional. Caitlin Collins believes that she is unbiased when she clearly is not. And Jim Acosta thinks that he is an incredible journalist when clearly he is not. I think we can all remember, I had to think back, which clip did I want to share? Which magical moment of Jim Acosta did I want to share for this story? I found one. This is the one. This is it.
And here are some of the steel slats that the president's been talking about right here. As you can see, yes, you can see through these slats to the other side of the U.S.-Mexico border. But as we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence here in the McAllen, Texas area. As a matter of fact, there are some other businesses behind me along this highway. There's a gas station, Burger King, and so on. But no sign of the national emergency that the president has been talking about. As a matter of fact, it's pretty tranquil down here.
Yeah, let's, just as a quick note, I want to highlight something that maybe you didn't catch because of hard to see through the idiocy of his comments. But that's pretty darn racist, okay? Stop to think about it. Here's a guy who his perception of quote unquote migrants, he believes that migrants, okay, whether you're from Central America, South America, Mexico, whatever, anywhere in the world, his perception is that because there's a wall there, that these migrants are so stupid that if they really existed, they would be running towards the wall, because that's what, according to Jim Acosta, that's what migrants do. They see an obstruction and they go to the obstruction versus going to someplace where there's no obstruction. In other words, yes, Jim Acosta, the ultimate racist in journalism, believes that migrants are just like totally idiotic and stupid. They're not. We know that, but Jim didn't know that, which is probably why CNN was trying to move him. And that is the genesis of this entire ordeal, or the end of the ordeal, I should say. According to the Post-Millennial, Jim Acosta is out of CNN. Notorious Never Trump journalist, quote-unquote journalist, Jim Acosta is leaving CNN, according to a new report. Oliver Darcy's Status News was the first to report the news. The anchor, I'm told, signaled to associates in private conversations over the weekend that he intends to depart the network after its chief executive, Mark Thompson, booted him from the morning programming lineup, a move that conspicuously coincided with Donald Trump's return to power. CNN brass, as we first reported earlier this month, decided to strip Acosta of his 10 a.m. show, which he has anchored to great ratings success over the last 11 months, at times even seeing higher viewership than programs in the channel's primetime block. Because, don't even get me started. Acosta was instead offered the less than desirable option of anchoring a show from midnight until 2 a.m. Eastern. CNN pitched the gig to Acosta as anchoring during primetime on the West Coast and said he could move to Los Angeles to host the program. But the reality is the program would have aired at a time in which cable news viewership is at its lowest. And that's also, by the way, that's a clear testament to what they thought of Jim Acosta, because they actually tried to pitch him on the idea that midnight to 2 a.m. was primetime. In other words, just as he thinks that migrants are stupid, CNN brass apparently thought, at least hoped, that Jim Acosta is stupid.
I have one kid. You have 5 kids.
That's what you.
How do you? That's incredible.
It's kind of like being an FBI agent. You're always kind of monitoring them and making sure everyone's safe.
Makes good sense. You know, I'm actually a real agent. Well, not an agent. I'm actually a deputy sheriff.
Are you really?
Right there. Many, many years.
Are you serious?
For real life, real life.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you're a sheriff.
Yep.
Played at Princeton. Pro football player. Greatest superhero of all time.
Never drafted to Major League Baseball like you with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Thank you very much.
Knuckleballer. How do you hit a knuckleball?
You don't.
You don't.
You don't.
That's the whole point.
That was the beauty of it. You know, we may have always played on different sides, you know, being the superhero or the supervillain. But we have a lot more in common than I thought that we did.
Which is shocking, because one thing's for sure. Genesis Gold Group is a company that we both trust. They make safeguarding your IRA or your 401k as simple as possible. And I need simple,
That's
I'll
right.
be honest.
And with their stellar reputation, they're as solid as the gold that they sell.
Like this gold right here. So call Genesis Gold Group today at 1-800-200-GOLD.
What is that?
This is what they call a prepper bar. So like you can break off these, see these little pieces? Oh, it's on both sides.
And it's great because you can carry that around small. And
Oh yeah,
it's not
and you
like-
can literally use it to spend.
Or it's not like this
Think
one.
that-
This,
What?
This is a big fella. This is a really great one.
Is that real?
This is a real one. You want to hold it? It's heavy.
Holy smokes.
That's pretty great. Yeah, you can get them one of those from Genesis Gold yourself.
Hey, you guys see this? Look, check
Dean,
this out.
Dean, that's my kid's college tuition money. Hold on, we'll be back. Dean!
Yeah. Who's the supervillain now, huh?
Yeah, that's my goal, Dean!
Brave New World actor Anthony Mackie says that Captain America shouldn't represent America. Okay. I mean, I no longer get surprised by stupid things said by Hollywood actors. He was in Italy at the time promoting this movie, which is supposed to be a disaster. I know that social media comments have been very, let's just say, unwoke. I mean, I get it. They hate America. They hate representing America. But I would argue that if you're going to play a character such as Captain America, you should probably not hate America so much, even if you're in Italy. Responses across social media have been very, very, very angry. Let's just say that. And rightly so. Look, I mean, there's still a lot of people out there. I'm not one of them, but there's still a lot of people out there who enjoy the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, maybe the comic books or whatever. And over and over and over again, they get betrayed by the wokesters in Hollywood who demand social justice, who demand that you hate America as much as they do. And they do truly, legitimately hate America. Let's just go ahead and play this clip.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations. Like, it's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. Someone who is trustworthy and dependable.
Okay, I'm still chewing on a macadamia nut, so I was going to let the whole thing play, but I just can't, because that's just awful. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what to do. This is still America. I know I myself have been boycotting Hollywood for a very long time. And again, you can do what you want, but I would say nothing would make me happier from a Hollywood perspective. Not that I care, but nothing would make me happier than for this movie and this woke actor to just absolutely bomb. Did we just witness the biggest scandal, the biggest cover-up in American history? And we all sort of glazed over it because it was so common knowledge that nobody was really asking questions? It's possible. It happens actually fairly regularly. Okay? We have these big stories that come through, but because of the news cycle, because of the ubiquitous nature of the internet in our pockets, because we have access to everything, it's almost as if we don't notice when something's a huge deal that's getting undercovered. That's the question. And I think that Charles Gasparino, who is a Fox News contributor, a New York Post columnist, just an all-around excellent journalist, he's asking the questions that we all should have been asking all along. These are questions about Joe Biden, his dementia, and who was actually running the country. Now, when we say this, I think everybody, all of you, all of my awesome, brilliant audience members, you guys have been asking this question probably for 4 years. I mean, we were asking this question on this show before the election, before the 2020 election. We were saying, how in the world is Joe Biden clearly has dementia, early stage dementia, or whatever stage he's in, he's not all there. We know this. This is why they're hiding him. Okay, it's not because he's got a stutter. It's not because he's full of gaffes. It's because he's not all there. And then once he was in office, it's like we experienced 4 years essentially without a president. And that in itself, if we stop to think about it, it's like it's not news to us, right? Because we knew it. But not everybody knew it, number one. Number two, why has nobody asked these questions? The questions that Charles Gasparino asks on X this morning. Here's his post. Here's the biggest story and scandal maybe in American history, and most of the mainstream media still won't touch it. Who ran the Biden administration for a barely sentient president? Who? Who led the cover-up of Biden's swift, literally day one mental decline? Looking back, CEOs of major companies I speak to say they had literally no access to Joe Biden for 4 years. Major corporations, generally speaking, do get access to presidents. That's always been the case. Okay? And there's a reason why CEOs have already met with President Trump very excitedly. JP Morgan Chase, Facebook, Google, these powerful CEOs who have a direct influence over our day-to-day lives, they were lining up, and they still are lining up to meet with President Trump, and he's meeting with them. Did they meet with Joe Biden? The answer is no. And it seems as if nobody was calling this out. But there's a reason why. We know why legacy media wasn't. Okay? They hate Donald Trump. They hate Republicans. They wanted to cover it up, hoping that the administrative state could keep going for 4 more years until they can get Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer or Michelle Obama or whoever in the White House. They just didn't want a Republican. And so they pretend like, oh, everything's fine. Nothing to see here. You know, Joe Biden, he's sharp as a tack. So we know why they did it. But why did these corporate leaders, who normally have the ears of the president, why did they say nothing? Well, according to Charles, there is a very good reason. It was a tell, they say, not being able to speak to the President of the United States for 4 years. But they were too scared to say anything because they are highly regulated. And let's face it, what industry in the United States of America in 2025 is not highly regulated? They all are. Okay? Back to Charles's post. So there is the cover-up of Biden's decline, and then the effort to have the unelected administrative state run things, which is creepy and probably unconstitutional. And spoiler alert, it's definitely unconstitutional. There's a reason why the Constitution gives ways, offers methods for a president who is incapable of fulfilling his duties, that there are ways for that president to be removed from office. So why did nobody even try? I mean, it goes back to that whole old leftist binary that I've talked about before. Either they were too stupid to realize it, and I don't think that's the case, or they were too evil to be willing to do anything about it. And I think that is the case. I don't think they were stupid. I don't think anybody, I mean, even if they are, I think they are actually, a lot of them are stupid, Kamala Harris. But even a stupid person could tell that Joe Biden was losing it, that he wasn't in control of his own faculties, and that he absolutely positively could not run this nation, could not be the president of the United States. And yet they, in their evil nature, their hatred for not only President Trump, not only for Republicans, but for America itself, that hatred drove them to cover it up. And they need to be held accountable. It is definitely a breach of the Constitution for them to have allowed this to happen. More on that in a minute. And then, when Biden's handlers couldn't hide it any longer, the Democrat Party establishment threw him out. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's all fact. How does Kamala Harris have a political career going forward since she was part of this cover-up? How does Anthony Blinken escape scrutiny for his role in all of the above? And not just Anthony Blinken, okay, any cabinet member, anybody who was supposed to be talking to the president, who either, if they were talking to him, then why didn't they say anything? Because it was obvious that he was impaired. And if they weren't talking to him, why didn't they say anything? Because it was obvious that he was ignoring them because he was impaired. I mean, This is a no-brainer. Is it possible for this cover-up to have continued for 4 years? Apparently, it's not just possible, it happened. The question is why, and the bigger question is how. And there actually is a third question, which we'll get to here in a second. But, while I wasn't looking, I was hovering over Michelle Obama, which is funny. Where were Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer? The DC-based MSM was supposed to cover this, but why didn't we have any decent reporting until now when it's too late? I guess I should add, and this is Charles, story developing. I cannot wait to read that story, and I will be posting it and talking about it here, I'm sure, at the J.D. Rucker Show, because this is a huge deal. Again, it's not like nothing he said is new, but when you put it all together and you really stop to think about it, you have to ask the questions that he's asking. How do these people still have political careers? How was this allowed to happen? How was it not stopped? How can we prevent it from ever happening again? And then the biggest question in all this, to me, maybe not to you, maybe not to everybody, I think a lot of people will focus on the prevention aspect of it as let's move forward, right? Let's just move forward and let's make sure this doesn't happen again. That's the pragmatic approach. But to me, and maybe because I'm just emotionally involved in this as somebody who absolutely positively adores the United States of America, to me, the biggest question is, what's going to happen to the people who allowed this, who perpetuated it, who made it happen? What consequences are there going to be? Because there needs to be consequences. This was unconstitutional, for sure. This was evil, for sure. And we need to hold these people to account.